If you want to reach the largest number of customers who come to your business website, then must pay very close attention to what I'm about to share. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips, and as you know, I'm a publisher of numerous newsletters, many newsletters, and they have each a website. So I've got several sites, podcasts, other materials. So here's my point. I use a plugin, and we won't talk about which plugin because this happens frequently. But there's two things that I do in my development cycle that make sure that I have quality uh, stats for my conversion rates, and that I also have the best usability for my end user. The first thing that I do is I work in what's called an internet invisible environment. So I have ad blocking on the network, and we won't go into the technical details. I have a website called antishadowban.com that talks about some of those details about how the advertising is working and how it's tracking. But let's just say on my network, on my router, and on my desktops, I'm blocking pretty much all tracking cookies, all advertisements, all that metrics data, including the operating system based metrics that associate my computer with my activity on the internet. Now, why am I doing this? Am I some kind of paranoid privacy freak? Well, not necessarily. So the key is I don't want to be working on a client's site or working on my own site and skew the stats because it's tracking my behavior, because I know I'm not my customer. So my browsing interests, my activities, my what I do on the internet, I don't want it to influence my audience matching, my advertising, my web analytics. And a lot of folks don't even know this is happening. So as your employees are using your in-house website, your audience skewing and your search engine targeting is slowly moving towards your employees who are not necessarily your customers. And so what this does is it gives you an imperfect look and an ultimately much more imperfect environment, because the tracking cookies inside of your workplace are are activated. Another factor that I look at too is that there's so much malware and spam and stuff like that that I do want a secure computing environment. But what happens is, because I don't have ad tracking on, a lot of applications and websites do not function as they should. Now, my internet experience is very fast. I've got a lot of security. I've never had a virus, knock on wood, um, because we have ad blockers and malware. It's more of a corporate environment than it is a home user environment. I have very accurate audience demographics while my website counts are very low. It's because, again, any of my staff, myself, it's difficult to track us on purpose. Now, again, we do use VPNs sometimes to test websites from the outside. We use the Tor privacy browser to look at websites from different perspectives in different countries. But ultimately, we do this so that our web development serves the largest audience. However, this WordPress app, which is very useful to my organization, like many WordPress plugins, informs me. Thank you for, and I'm reading from the message here. This is a support ticket I put in because I could not renew a $799 plugin. Okay, so we use paid plugins. We're an agency. We help our clients use plugins, but I couldn't renew the plugin because, and they say, thank you for your patience while we investigated the issue you encountered. It appears that the problem you're facing may be related to an ad blocker that is inadvertently affecting the functionality of our site. So he's saying your browser is affecting the functionality of our site that should work for the maximum number of browsers. We understand how frustrating this can be, and we're here to help. Well, I'm happy you're here to help. It would be the biggest help is if you fix the plugin and you fixed your website so that people from mobile phones, from tablets, from different types of browsers. So as a development house, as an agency, we're using Chrome, Firefox, Brave. We have some staff that likes to use the Opera browser. Again, maximum number of browsers. You wouldn't have a store in a city that didn't have wheelchair accessibility. Okay, because remember, your users are using some browsers that are reading the screen. So if you have this weird layout and it's difficult for the screen reader to work, then that individual who relies on the screen reader will not be able to participate with your website. Our membership site, for example, I'm very careful to make sure that everybody can log in and that those tools that will automatically log you into websites work like they're supposed to, because some people use assistance tools. Now, again, every audience, every language, every translation tool, if it works, that's a larger audience who can access your site. I see a lot of people using Cloudflare, for example, and you can't access the site if you're using automated scripts and things that are sometimes people use for productivity tools. But in this case, this WordPress plugin is telling me, oh, because I noticed there's a bunch of problems. I documented, I like this plugin. I gave them some feedback, and they say, oh, yeah, well, look, it looks like our site's broken. Well, it's probably your browser. At least they didn't give me to clear the cookies. But my point being, and this is a critical and important point for anybody who is a web publisher, anybody who has a content site, anybody who's running a membership or training program, anybody who's writing copy, is that we want the site to work for the maximum number of people. So again, it's how fast does the page load? What browsers does it load for? I remember back in the day when people said this site is best surfed by the Internet Explorer, not Exploder, but the Internet Explorer browser. I know I hate it, but when Microsoft forces their browser on me and Chrome forces its browser on me, it's not convenient. I want to use the browser I want to use. I want to customize it the way I want to use it for my productivity, because after all, it's my computer. However, there are more and more tools and plugins and cookies and codes and stuff that don't track right. So the key is when we're doing web analytics is we make sure we're tracking in multiple ways. So we track the lead, okay? And we track the lead in a separate system than the initial system where the lead is generated. So for example, if you're using ClickFunnels, ClickFunnels is going to be your funnel, but you're going to use Google Analytics to verify or validate the information that happens in ClickFunnels. So ClickFunnels might have 35 leads and the Google Analytics might say you have 40 leads. That's something you want to look at. Now, it's possible for you to have 35 leads in your system and only 20 leads in the conversion tracking, but it's not broken necessarily. You had users using privacy browsers. In my case, I have users in foreign countries. So I have users in India, Canada, UK, Australia, all the English-speaking countries. And actually the Middle East, UAE, there's a couple other places too. But I want to make sure that when they access the website from their country, so periodically somebody goes on a VPN, connects from Australia and looks at the website. Now, there are tools that can help you with this as well, but I want to make sure that they get an actual website. It turns out in UAE, United Arab Emirates, my website's Inside Strategic Relations, which talks about management strategies, government, how governments work, how propaganda works. It was actually blocked in that country. Now, I didn't know that. I have clients in that country. So ultimately, I had to fix it. Now, how did I fix it? Well, I wasn't on a block list or anything. Long story short, we got it fixed. But the key I want you to understand is that if the user cannot get in the store, they cannot buy products. If you have a store that's cluttered and difficult to navigate, and a physical store now, folks, I know a lot of you guys are just online, but you have a physical store that's difficult to navigate, the aisles are too narrow, the products are not organized, it is going to be a problem. The same thing goes with your content site. If you have a bunch of broken links, if the navigation is difficult to use, and I do take a school of minimalism. I want the website, when you land on a page, there's one of two things that you can do. You can become a lead or you can buy a product. Now, if there's secondary navigation, it's going to take you someplace where what? You can generate a lead or you can buy a product. If the customer comes for customer service, what are one of the two things that we're going to do? Well, we're going to help them solve the problem when it comes to customer service, but we're going to make sure that they can actually get on the website itself and do what they need to do. So again, there are numerous plugins that we use for clients. And when we evaluate these plugins, we want to make sure they work for the maximum number of customers. In this case, it's actually an analytics plugin, and it needs to function from the administrative side where we could block or filter or otherwise, make ourselves more invisible, but more importantly, it's got to do that tracking for the other people. So now there's Google Analytics has, for example, a trigger that'll tell whether or not the site's ad blocking. So I do know how many people use ad blockers on my sites. Turns out a lot of senior level executives and business owners have the same philosophy as I do, is that they want to be able to surf their competitor's website. They want to be able to surf their own website. They want to be able to navigate the internet without somebody following them around. Now, when it comes to ad sales, it is actually more profitable to allow people to block ads, because this is my second pet peeve, is that when I go to a number of websites, they'll say, oh, you've got ad blockers on, so you can't see our content. Okay, if you've got an advertising sponsored website, that is the way of the past. It is actually more profitable and better for your conversion rates if you're not counting the people who don't want to see ads. Now, of course, you need to capture their email and then send them an email message and find different ways to reach them. Because see, I'm both invisible on the internet, but I want to make sure I'm tracking the visitors who are visiting the site, who of course want to be tracked, because there's always the opt-out policy. Now, what does this mean for me? Well, on my website, and I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes here, because these are things that you ought to be doing with your clients' websites and be doing with your own website. If you go to my contact page, because every podcast says, if you have any questions about what I've covered here today, be sure to visit our website. And then if you go to the contact page and ask a question, I'm actually tracking you from that point. Before you get to that point, by the way, I'm tracking every page you've looked at. And then you go in our CRM system, and then the lead goes in our email autoresponder system or email marketing system. And then I have a picture of you in two separate systems. Remember, the two is one is none. And so what we got here now is I've got you in my CRM system, and I've got you in my my actual email marketing system. Now, somebody in-house testing that, who is internet invisible, they're not doing, they're not seeing Facebook tracking cookies. They're not seeing LinkedIn pixels. They're not seeing Google Analytics. They're invisible on Google Analytics. However, when they opt into a form, which is explicit permission to receive additional information, now they start showing up and tracking. Okay, because I've now got the email address. And so I can see what they've been looking at and what they've been doing. Now, I have tried to be internet invisible for the page tracking in the CRM system, and sometimes I am, and most of the time I'm not. And I've tried to be invisible in other platforms, and what happens is you get these mismatches in counts. Okay, that's very normal. We do a lot of search engine optimization. We do a lot of conversion rate optimization, and I will tell you, you'll never have two tracking systems that'll be exactly the same. And if you do, there's something wrong, because what tends to happen is one will pick it up this month, and then they'll do an update, and then they won't pick up the people anymore. Something will break. Your analytics page counts will be super high at the hosting provider because they're counting everything, but they're going to be low on the Google Analytics side because Google Analytics is tracking real humans, not bots. They're filtering out all the bots. And as long as you know this, then you build mechanisms like the lead generated, the number of phone calls made, the actual human behaviors, because we sell to humans, not to machines. So we want to track that. And then the next point is, of course, the sale, because they have to put in a credit card and make a transaction. So if you're measuring leads and sales, it doesn't really matter if your customers are invisible, but it does matter that your website works for the maximum number of visitors. So we do have hearing impaired visitors. Now, I don't have subtitles on all my videos. The videos don't justify that from a financial perspective. There are tools that folks can use. So the video formats are usually very simple. I don't put a lot of text on the screen because the videos can get picked up with the automated topic, folks. And then when I have somebody who's hearing impaired who contacts us, I will specifically have that video either subtitled, or I'll provide them a transcript to the video. And that's important to me. Somebody who is visually impaired, we have a lot of audio content that is very similar to the print content, because I'll do a video like this and then someone will transcribe it and then they'll turn it into a couple articles. So if you can't see my beautiful face, you can at least listen to me, and then you can listen to me on podcasts, YouTube, you can listen in other areas. But again, we're making a conscious effort, especially with our clients, to maximize the number of people who can interact with the website. The last point I want to make is when we're at Lilly and Vernon. Lilly and Vernon had order online, order by telephone, order by fax machine. Okay. Now, Lilly and Vernon was a consumer company, and they were accepting orders by fax. There was regular discussions, and I was only that contract was a 90-day contract. I was only there for 90 days. We fixed a lot of problems, and I learned a whole lot about how they function, and we did real good work. But there was a constant thing about why are we accepting fax orders? Nobody asked how many fax orders do we get as a percentage of the total number of catalogs that go out. Nobody asked what the dollar transaction value of a fax order versus a non-fax order was. They were like, why do we have this antiquated technology? Why don't we send everybody to the website? But the fact of the matter is somebody who faxes in an order or mails in an order is usually a higher dollar value, and they tend to be higher and more affluent customers because what they're doing is they're sitting down with the physical catalog and they're filling out a form and they're faxing it in. There's no distractions there. They tend to buy more stuff. So when it comes to your website as well, I know I send people from the podcast only to the website, but if you replied in the comments or you went to the website, you can fax me, you can email me, you can call into the office. Now, again, if you call into the office, you're not going to get to talk to me specifically. You'll likely have to leave a message. Somebody from staff will follow up with you. And then now the onus is up to you to leave enough contact information. But in my telephone system, I'm going to have your phone number. I'm going to have some demographic information about you. And then I'm going to have some details about the phone number includes encoding that gives me general area code, tells me where you're located. And then the second set of numbers tell me kind of almost down to the zip code. But my point being, again, privacy is dead in America. Privacy is dead worldwide. Doesn't matter how many of these privacy laws come up. Some people want to stay invisible on the internet for practical purposes. Some people want to stay invisible on the internet because they're doing competitive research or looking at their own site and they don't want to skew the stats. But majority of the people visiting your website are not technically inclined. They don't want to hear to refresh the browser. They don't want to hear that your browser. I tried 4 browsers before I sent a note to these people. They don't want to hear that your browser has problem. They don't want to hear your network has ad blocking. Actually, I have 4 sites that cannot be seen from corporate networks. So there's a corporate product that blocks 4 of my sites. I have 8 sites total. 4 of the sites cannot be seen inside of a corporate environment. And about half those customers, I could tell right in the metrics, about half of those customers are corporate users. So it means on those sites, I got to get the email address. I got to get the email address of their home, not of their work. Because if I send them an email and they click a link, it's blocked. They just stop the transaction. They don't buy anything. But if it's a home address and I get them the email, I get the email for the home address, I send it something at home, they're after hours, then they can click and finish the transaction. So let me leave you with this. Number 1, you want to test for the maximum number of users. You want your website to be simple so that it works on mobile, it works on tablets, it works on all browsers for the desktop. It works for multiple operating systems. You want to make sure that you have secondary tracking mechanisms. Don't rely just on Google Analytics. Don't rely on some platform out there that's running your funnel. Make sure you have a secondary way to audit, and that implies that you actually go through and audit your analytics, because when we do that for clients, they find out they haven't been able to track anything and half their forms don't work on their website. It's shocking, but it's good business. And by the way, if you're a copywriter or a marketer and you want a white label company to come in and provide this as an additional service for you, and by the way, we work in all kinds of consulting things that you get additional income, but we do all the work. We can do that for you because we do find that websites don't work, analytics aren't tracking, and the business is spending money that they shouldn't. Because their cookies are wrong, or their pixels in the wrong place, or their ad campaigns are being managed by a third party in a way that doesn't give you insights and intelligence to help you make better decisions. And that's really what it's about, making better decisions. We have to know that analytics is imperfect, but we have to make sure it works perfectly for every potential buyer. And then from there, we need to go ahead and not give these BS customer service things. Rest assured, our team is dedicated to resolving the issue promptly and making your browsing experience as smooth as possible. Okay, well, just make your website work if I show up to the website anonymously. Okay, I'm not a bot. That's one thing. Sometimes they might think I look like a bot because we are coming in there from proxies. We're coming in from other ways. But again, if I want to test a website, I need it to work with the maximum number of approaches and maximum number of client browsers. So that's why we function this way. Now, it could be argued that maybe it's annoying on my part, but ultimately it's podcast content. I'm Justin Hitt from Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. And again, make sure your damn website works and don't give me any excuses when it doesn't, because you're missing out on customers. And if you have questions about what I've covered here today, you can visit www.adbriefings.co.uk. And rest assured, our privacy policy lays out that I will track every movement you have on the website should you be internet visible. And if you decide to be internet invisible, everything will still work because we check that as well. I want to thank you for being a part of what we do here. We help you not only write better copy, but to conduct the business of marketing. Because ultimately there are so many websites that miss opportunities for dumb technology mistakes, not having their analytics set up right, not being able to measure. I just don't get it. When you write copy and the customer tells you it doesn't work, most of the time they don't know if it works or not because they don't have the basics of metrics and measurement that we talk about here. And so I think it's a disservice anybody telling you about copy but not teaching you how to do an A/B split or how to do a test. And so again, if you have questions, more than happy to answer it. We have a podcast, we have a newsletter, we have a coaching program. I want to make sure that you are profiting in the business of copy, that you're going from freelance copywriting and marketing. Instead of being a commodity, you're becoming a go-to professional in a marketing agency, a 7-figure marketing agency that drives home value to your clients, because then we can push all these garbage people out of the marketplace that can't get their damn website to work with somebody who just basically blocks cookies. So thanks for watching. See you in the next podcast. Again, I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips.